Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2. Let me introduce to you the current reigning world champion, a normal man. In the blue, the proud owner of a barracks more than halfway across the map. It is Oliveira. And the player that Oliveira has ranked as #1 in the world right now. Of course, it's the finisher. It's Serral. A best-of-5. Terran versus Zerg, and Oliveira looking to take things directly into his hands early on without giving Serral a chance to really rip them from him. But Serral has scouted it. Serral sees everything. Serral sees the early barracks. Serral sees the SCV. And Serral sees that you haven't yet liked and subscribed. And quickly, before the... Jimmy! What? 1,222 likes on this video. On this cast. And I'll cast another series. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully this World Champions Clash will make it a little bit better. The attempted proxy Rex into bunker. Serral has defused with relatively minimal effort. The Reaper's out of position. The bunker. He's not even risking. If another Reaper comes in the main, he already has the Zerglings in place. Doesn't need more than 2 to deal with the bunker. Bounces Brenda back for a moment. We now got a dozen Zerglings on the way. Serral is looking to strike back with a vengeance. He is not going to let this transgression slide. He's not going to limit his economy for no cost here. He's going to try to smash Oliveira back at his base before he has a chance to get going. And here's the thing. Right now on the map, there's 1 Reaper and 1 Marine. He's building a reactor on his factory. There are not going to be any other units for at least another almost a minute or so. Even if he builds immediately when that reactor finishes. This could be disastrous for the world champion. Serral picking his strategy well. Already even with a couple of Cyclones or Hellions, this is going to be immensely hard to hold. The Banelings are on the way. And Oliveira will see them. The alarm bell's going off. Tries to damage 1. 2 Hellions halfway done, but the Zerglings are already at the door, softening it up. No amount of repair is going to save him from these Banes. They are going to bash through. The Zerglings should open up the way for the Banelings. The Hellions pop out. But the wall is breached and Serral streams through. 3 command centers aren't gonna save you from the Zerglings already in the base. Serral has had enough of these silly attempted cheeses. He's not bothering with any more of this map. And he will simply walk up and execute Oliveira in game 1. 26 SCVs, the vast majority of them. Down to 5. He's dropping mules here. Serral building some drones behind. Oliveira won't die. He does have 3 command centers. There is a dream. No, not of Storm. Though that would help. But overall, looking exceedingly unlikely. The wall isn't even rebuilt. Another group of Zerglings come in. And Oliveira just taps it out. Reaches into the spawning pool, pulls out some Zerglings, mixes in a few Banelings, and game 1. Decisively going to the finisher. Not going to be too unhappy with that if you're Oliveira to start. The proxy 1-Rags Reaper does seem wholly uncommitted, but if it does go unscouted, and he tried to find a spot where Serral's Overlords wouldn't see, but, well, doesn't always work out. 1-0 Serral. Going into game 2, hard lead. Serral in the top left. Oliveira. The bottom right. We're gonna have to shake that one off. A clean and decisively executed counter Baneling bust. I think Serral decided once he built 8 Lings early in order to deal with the Reapers, he's like, well, there's no reason to let these go to waste. And turn that into a Bane bust. Which, it's one of those timings where because you don't have the barracks back at home to build the reactor, like you usually do with the factory. The reactor being delayed, combined with the lack of earlier scouting, makes it relatively easy to get the banelings in if you're able to deal with the Reaper that quickly. So, it is the major weakness of those early barracks builds, if they're not able to get anything done. And Serral exploiting it. Alright, so this map, we've seen a lot more success from Terrans against Zerg. And Terrans who aren't just Clem, by the way. Though Clem the most notable. It is a smaller map, not as many bases. The rush distance is such that you also see from Zerg a lot of roach all-ins and things that exploit your inability to make quite as many units beforehand. Get a good concave out on the map. The Reaper will flirt with the Zerglings early on. But being a Terran unit is not particularly socially adept, so it just wants to show off its guns, which does not impress people nearly as much as they might think it does, but here we are. 2 command centers on the way. Oliveira not going to abandon the economic strat, just falling back to something closer to standard. It is 3 CCB4 starport, and that means just a huge commitment. It very unlikely to be anything but Hellions and maybe a Banshee. We've seen a even greater surge of Banshees throughout this tournament and recently in general. Just anything to make sure a Roach or even a Nidus all-in is not nearly as effective. I don't know if Oliveira's going to go for the Banshee, but I do like it as an option. It is that built-in, it's kind of like an Oracle for Protoss against Zerg. It's that built-in anti-ground potential that you don't usually have if you go for a greedier strat early on. And there's nothing Zerg can do about it besides bring the queens across, which is a whole ordeal for them and in general. With the various means of doing it. Okay, he's going to switch on over to the Starport Tech Lab and a Banshee. Nod of approval. Oh my god, there's a Hydra down. Oh no. Save the Hydra. Turn it into a Dropper Lord. It's stuck in the fires of Mount Doom. Is that a larger Hydra than usual, or is it just closer to the camera? Alright, that's how I tell everyone. No, you haven't gained weight. I'm just closer to the camera. But we're in person. No, I never go outside. Is he faking interference matrix? Oh my god. Now that's the first time I've seen that. Interference matrix only costs 50-50 compared to cloaking, which costs 100-100. This is kind of like faking stim with concussive shit. I've never seen anyone quite do that before. So clever move there from Oliveira. Might catch Serral off guard. He's still gonna see the Banshee. There is one out, but it seems to be entirely defensive. A single uncloaked Banshee is not gonna do much more than keep Serral on his toes. Alright, Hellions over to the left, Banshee heading to the right, so already developing that creep spread. Little Brenda bounce there. Queens. Ooh, little birds that look more like broodlings around here. Never noticed that. We're not on a nature expedition, alright? This is war. Hellions keep poking around. Grenade bounce the queens over. But still plenty of energy for transfuse if it comes to that. Spore crawlers coming up. Double NG Bay for Oliveira. Far before any evolution chambers for Serral, who does have a roach warren. The lack of Evo chambers is definitely interesting. As all this gas comes up, is he actually going to go for Mutas? He does. He's getting roach speed now. Double Evo behind. Should have enough for the 1-1 immediately. Softens up the 4th base, but the Banshee takes a few knitting needles in turn. A much more methodical game. So far, 1 Overlord lost in 6 minutes. Both sides trying to keep each other honest, but not really having the economy or the production set up to do much more than poker prod. Infestation pit halfway done. It's going to be a rush likely to hive. But there's always the chance of mixing in a few infestors. I hesitate to even mention the term swarm host, but as that is just not something that works out, especially against Marine tank. Maybe against mech, but even then, A bit of Roach Ravager on the way, looking to intercept the Banshee. I think he realizes now there was no cloak, not that it would have mattered. Banshee swatted out of the sky. And that's the end of that. 76 to 62 workers in favor of our Finnish player. Only 7 minutes in, he's already got 76 drones. Hive on the way. 1-1 halfway done. But Oliveira, he's got his upgrades a little bit quicker. They're not slouching on economy. Production is online. 5 barracks, a factory, and a starport. Armory lined up to get that 2-2 in a timely manner as well. Baneling Nest for Serral. Now looking to stick on the Roach Ravager as he goes up to Hive. Eventually the Ling Bane becomes effective again. It's just the Roach Ravager is a lot easier to get in the mid-game and less larva intensive than spamming Zerglings and Banelings. It really goes... It takes up a lot of supply. And that's not a good thing. The supply doesn't make you stronger. It's what the supply is made out of. But it's just so much easier, both larva and economy-wise, to get Roach Ravager before the armies are maxed out. It's just when both sides, when the Terran gets to a maxed out army with siege tanks, with liberators, with upgraded Marines and Marauders, the Roaches, for their supply, just don't hold up. And that's why the Lings and Banes are eventually mixed back in to overrun the field. Because with a few Vipers able to close the distance with the Banelings, they do a lot more work than the Roaches probably ever could. But is he going to have enough to deal with this siege tank push? Oliveira with a very strong timing before the Vipers are done. But Corrosive Bile gets one of the tanks, actually missed the mark on the second. He still has 3 here. Looks like 1 base will be taken out before Serral can really defend it. Baneling speed is not done. Vipers not yet out. They don't have the energy. They're going to pop out, and Oliveira is going to see them. The Banelings trying to waddle in here without speed. They're quite impotent. The siege tank is taken out by Corrosive Bile. More Banelings rolling in. Liberators are setting up at the natural and at the third base simultaneously. That's why you see the drone count. The drone kills right now. He gets a dozen. 13. The Liberators clearing the natural and the third. Blinding Cloud not going to help as the Marines stim by, and Serral is being gutted right now. He had a few Roaches at the back, but he loses 13 drones to the Liberators, and I'd argue he lost the fight overall. Oliveira killing 2,000, almost 500 more minerals, a bit more gas. And those Liberators undercutting any sort of cleanup that Serral was able to do on the army. Without that sort of damage, there's still a Liberator at the natural. He's still not mining. Oliveira turning Serral's economic advantage completely around. As not only did he deny a 5th base, he took his own 4th. And he killed all those drones. And now Serral does not have an army that's going to be able to compete with Oliveira's in the near future. The Vipers, he's entirely reliant on. A Ghost Academy, the only saving grace here for Serral. And again, the smaller size of this map is really on display. Oliveira was able to come across. If it took him another 20, 30 seconds to set up like that, then very likely Baneling speed would be done, the Vipers have energy, and he gets potentially crushed. But instead, he cuts through, gets the damage done, and keeps Serral busy with those Liberators. 180 to 160 supply. Serral's creep spread, minimal. It's been cut down on seemingly all sides. The rest is unloading. And the Marines and tanks are marching again. The Banelings will roll in. Oliveira actually losing a lot of Marines here. But the Banelings are expended, and there's still quite an army behind. How many Vipers on the field? Just 1. There's only so much energy it can carry. And a Queen getting caught. Serral setting up for a counterattack, going to give up this base entirely. The third base, the depots were not raised. There is a Widow Mine there. Oof. He raises the depots. Bit of a barn door situation. Doesn't lose the hatch. Oliveira not quite taking it out yet. But the army joining up, trying to chase down Serral. One Queen Branda! Another one! Corrosive Vials onto the mine. Take it out. There's the Viper. What's he looking for? A parasitic bomb. And now here comes Serral from all sides. Blinding Cloud on the initial tanks. Banelings rolling in, forcing the Marines back. The Roaches are starting to chew through. Another wave of Corrosive Vials. Down to one tank is Oliveira. And Serral taking a pretty solid fight there off the Corrosive Vials. And some Zerglings into the third base. Will start to chew through the SCV. He's not getting too many of them to start. But Serral's able to take a strong fight. Ricky will join us. An omen of good fortune, of panic, or of just the general chaos of this game. It's unclear. But Ricky, the accidental swarm host, joining the production tab. Definitely an indicator of something. Infestor, another Viper on the way. We could be seeing those Serral Festers soon. He's got Burrow halfway done. Surprised he didn't get it until now, but Oliveira's kept him busy. He's been able to push him back, but Serral is once again threatening to keep it together and potentially consolidate his forces on Hive Tech. Oliveira doesn't have too much more time at the advantage when it comes to tech here. The Vipers are on the way. I mean, the Ghosts, sorry, the Anti-Vipers. Drop in towards the main. I drop over to the right flank. The Infestor, not quite in position for a fungal. +3 Carapace completed for the finisher. 3-3 still. Wow. Actually, Oliveira pretty late on his +3 upgrades. Gonna lose a Ghost over to the right side. And these are little mistakes that add up. It's not that he can't afford them yet, but the gap is closing. The supplies are about even, but the key point here, Oliveira has all his bases relatively untouched. He's still sitting on 84 SCVs. He has plenty of production. Multiple factories. 8 barracks. 3 factories, 8 barracks. Only 1 starport for now, but building Liberators. So right now, Oliveira has the economy, whereas Serral is only barely holding on to his bases. But if Serral wins one more big fight, he could easily crush 2 bases. Maybe do it anyway. Here we go. Infestors. Well, actually, I assume there's an Infestor around. There always is. But the Viper's not involved. Baneling's trying to roll in. Big counterattack from Serral. Looks like it's shut down by the Planetary. Another round of Corrosive Vials. Take out Liberator. Widow Mines. Whoa, decent hit there, but a flank from the back. Siege tanks doing their best. Don't know where the Viper is if it had energy. And the Banelings will eventually roll through, mostly thinned out. Serral losing a lot of supply here, as Oliveira able to replace his so quickly. Serral actually out of larva, something very rarely seen. But he has 1,400 minerals, 1,100 gas, and no larva to spend it. The Queen count down to 3. He lost a couple out on the field. Widow Mines continue to connect, and Oliveira starting to really rack up the wins here. Gets another couple snipes, and the momentum given by those medevacs on the units. They just won't die. Parasitic bombs across the board. A lot of medevacs being softened up, but quarantines a couple up to the north side. Lines up some more shots on the Ravagers. Splits against the Banelings, and Serral is down to 120 supply. And it's not going up very quickly. Ultralisk Cavern is somewhat ironically too little, and probably too late. Ultra is definitely a more larva-efficient choice, to say the very least, but Oliveira has ground Serral down. He's kept it back. To Serral's credit, he's kept it together, but he hasn't been able to do... Oh my god, Ricky has been burrowed in the corner. Got a kill. So, you know, while Ricky lives, Serral still has hope. But he might not have enough supply to continue fighting. We'll have to see. Where is that Infestor? There's one underneath. Parasitic bomb, but there's just not enough damage across the board. Oliveira strikes back with a very solid game. And we're all tied up 1-1. Hard led, a tough map for Zerg, even for Zerg's name, Serral. I think he just kept such great pressure across the board, even though he wasn't outright killing him. the trades each time. Banelings, when they attack, well, they don't come back. So even if you're taking out groups of Marines, if it's expending a dozen, 2 dozen Banelings every time, that adds up. And Serral didn't have the hive tech, aside from a Viper or two, to really capitalize on that situation. So Oliveira doing a great job of limiting Serral in Game 2 and giving us a real series. As we go into Game 3, Alkion. All right. Now, something a little bit of a larger map, a few more bases, a little bit more time in between them. Doesn't usually matter too much, but at this level, the bleeding edge, literally the best of the best. And even though Oliveira will, well, so far is perpetually the underdog Terran, he is still one of the top Terrans in the world. Just a more strategic style than we'll see from some... Well, you know what? I feel like Clem recently has also taken a lot of cues from Oliveira. He's always been a more methodical late-game player. When a lot of Terrans have historically, mostly beyond Clem, but relied upon just sheer micro, that is... it's fleeting. You might be able to target down 10 Banelings with 16 Marines, but you might not. And a game resting upon that split second of micro as opposed to a much more reliable foundation of macro is not as stable a strategy. And a bit of a different strategy from Serral here as well. No scout with SCVs, pool first, slips the Zerglings by, may very well cancel the command center. Decides to go into the main. Oliveira pulls the SCVs. The danger of non-SCV scouting here. The Zerglings, well, so far dealt with pretty cleanly. The Reaper's headed back home. Actually, no, it's back in the middle of the map. He's still mining. So far, even though he hasn't been mining here, honestly, Serral, Oliveira saying, I'm not locked in here with you. Lets the Zerglings in and uses them for some target practice. Sure, a bit dicey. Will he end up losing a single SCV? No. A perfect, if drawn-out defense from the world champion. And now gonna hold on to the third base, block it with a Reaper for a time. And overall, the early game shenanigans here will favor Oliveira. Well done on that defense. Even baiting the Zerglings into the main. I think Serral probably should have left a Zergling down towards the natural, because delaying the command center is probably the biggest part of this. But kind of just jumps into the main with all but one Zergling and gets cleaned up. Of course, he gets a full scout, delays some mining, but it's one of those times where you say delays mining and kind of tongue-in-cheek. 4 or 5 SCVs to clean up those early lings, which delayed Serral having his natural. Yeah, small price to pay. Roach Horn on the way. 35 drones for Serral. More barracks. Of course, it's going to be Bio again. The only player I've seen use mech to any real extent against Zerg. Not even Gumiho, but Big Gabe, Hero Marine, is the only player I've seen use a real all-out mech build on the new patch, especially considering the new Cyclones. Clem has tried it occasionally, though not too recently. I think everybody was trying the new Cyclones. All right, not the old new Cyclones, not the old new Cyclones, but the new Cyclones, because as you know, the Cyclones have gotten more patch changes than Protoss in the last 3 years. Lair is on the way. Overlord going to spot... Wait, did he see the starport? Not quite. You can do a little bit of math on it. Get a good idea on when those medevacs are going to be coming out, which is usually the indicator of an attack timing. But Serral should be safe to at least get to Lair. Does he have a Baneling nest? He has a Roach one. So it looks like we're going yet again for the Roaches. Didn't quite work out, but this map is significantly larger and easier to deal with those pushes. Though, Oliveira's tank pushes are definitely... that was so dangerous. Honestly, it easily could have ended the game. I was a little bit forward with the tanks, getting them cut off by corrosive bile a bit early on. I think Oliveira a bit hasty. It's hard to decide how fast you want to go with the tank pushes. Like, too fast? It's not great. Too slow? Not great. You gotta have it just right. Okay? Constant pressure with those tank pushes. And that's how you make for a satisfying victory. Infestation pit on the way. Once again, Serral. Roaches to cover until Hive Tech. Once again, Oliveira ready to put on some pressure with those first two medevacs. The only difference so far? The map. And a bit of the early game shenanigans. Widow Mines on the way as well. And no tanks this time. Not putting any tanks together. He starts with mines. So we're not bothering with the siege tanks here, but instead a much more mobile late game composition. The M&M. Infantry weapons level 1 alongside armor about to complete. A medevacs. Keeping control of the creep. That was another part of his victory in game 2. Oliveira just able to keep solid control of the creep pretty much across the board. So far, not nearly as pressed back. Siege tank on the way. Second factory. Key point here. Which means he has a tech lab on the factory and can maybe get drilling claws as well. Hive tech. Marines. The counter to everything, don't worry. The Widow Mines will burrow. Gets one of them. Picks up the drop on the left flank. Creep has receded. I've nearly done. 1-1 about to complete. Baneling speed halfway there. So Oliveira not going to be able to find a timing before Bane speed. That was such a key part. Gets another drop through. Just keeping it. The clear objective is creep control right now. Maybe popping a base. We'll get the hatch. Serral does manage to cancel. Serral trying to help press out the creep on all sides with small little battle groups here of roaches and zerglings. Adrenal glands on the way. Hive tech is online. Those two vipers coming together. And those two vipers are probably going to become the most important units in the game momentarily. As Oliveira's push with comparable army supply is incredibly dangerous to a Zerg army without vipers to work with. Two liberators heading out. He is stepping on the creep. He's not splitting at all. There we go. Scans the army. The banelings at the back. Corrosive bile scattered and doesn't really find too much. Serral will likely need the vipers to deal with this. Here we are. Blinding cloud on one tank. There is a Widow Mine back there. And yeah, with just one blinding cloud, the Terran army able to thin out the Zerg quickly. But Serral refilling. Liberators are sieging up on both sides, but Serral is ready to deal with it this time around. Looks like one was taken out by a spore crawler, the other is taken out by corrosive bile, and now Oliveira is pushed back. The Zerg have adapted. Resistance is futile. Oliveira tried the same move, the same setup as last game, and Serral just handled it. So now we're gonna have to drag it out. Ultralisk cavern, way quicker this time as well. Adrenal glands about to be done. Serral is maxed out. Parasitic bomb onto the medevacs. Overlord taken out. And +2 carapace. A lot for both sides. Armor and carapace completing. Using that choke point. That's a lot of siege tanks. 6 tanks here. +1 mech weapons is done. Just now starting the Ghost Academy. Which means a long way off those ghosts to deal with the Vipers. Potentially the Ultras. But here comes Oliveira. He's got 2-2. Serral's at 201 out of 200 supply because that's just how we do. Another drop getting melted. The tank's in position here. Serral clearly setting up the flank on the minimap. The Vikings out in front. The Viper slipping around. Some drones going down. Serral, when does he pull the trigger? Here we go. Banelings rolling in. Blinding Cloud on the center line. And some of the tanks at the back. The tanks in great spots here. Getting caught up on the Zerglings onto the Hellbats. But the tanks are almost undefended now. The Roaches and Ravagers are coming through. The Vikings found a lot of success, but everything on the ground is swept away. And Serral cleans the field. It wasn't a particularly easy fight. Both sides taking about the same amount out. Serral doing a little better there, and I think dislodging 6 siege tanks makes it more than worth it. If you're able to take out 6 tanks and trade relatively evenly, well, that's definitely a fight that you'd rather take. Even just getting the 6 siege tanks and losing way more might be worth it, depending on the situation. But now we have 3 ghosts, drilling claws, 3 around the way for Oliveira. Serral setting up for an attack on the north side. Lings and Banelings splitting his way through. Holding on to the depot there. The depot's actually helping out a lot in funneling these units. Eventually takes out a base itself, opening up some of the rocks. More Zerglings getting through. Gonna be cleaned up. There's more than enough army here for Oliveira. The Natural itself may be exposed. A Changeling there, keeping watch. In the pipe 5x5, right, boys? What? Wait a second. Does anybody know this guy? Yeah, I don't. Ah! Sorry. I blacked out for infantry weapons. Level 3. About to complete. Oliveira. This time around, it feels like Serral has closed all the gaps in his armor, and in fact reinforced that armor with chitinous plating. Ultras on the field. The Zerglings, 94 of them. Couple dozen Banelings. I think he just hit some of his own Zerglings with corrosive bile, but acceptable losses. Just swinging around with the majority of his army. There's not that much here. The pre-sped is beautiful. Can probably yank out some of the tanks, use the Blinding Cloud, but the Widow Mines will still be able to connect. Gets huge hits on the front line. The Ghosts find an angle. Land some snipes on the Ultras, but both Ultras still chewing through. Oliveira forced back yet again. He's got a counterattack coming together. But Serral refills immediately. 180 to 130 supply. Another Ultra taken out. Does he have any more shots ready? Maybe one more snipe. But the Ghosts are chopped to pieces. The tank takes out the Ultra. And it looks like eventually Oliveira will hold. But at what cost? Serral cleaned up the counterattack. Vikings on deck. And the Zerglings. Oh, massive Widow Mine hit. Chews into him. But Oliveira doesn't have that much bio left over. Another Ghost goes down. He's building as much as he can, but GG Serral strikes forward. And it's more than enough. He just takes him out. Oliveira unable to withstand the full-on attack. It feels like they played the same game out, but Serral knew all the moves in advance. Because Oliveira did the same thing. Not that he built the same units, but he built them at the same timings, with the same general objective. And Serral, it took him all of one game to adapt. And to overrun Oliveira. So, hopefully, we can now see, you know, something maybe a bit different this time around as we go into Game 4. Serral versus Oliveira. Not that Oliveira's execution was bad. Not by any means. It's just, you need to have an edge somewhere to beat Serral. And a full-on attack will only work once. The ways that I think players like Clem, there's no players like Clem, but the way that Clem has been able to dismantle him in the past is by stressing his multitasking to the point, and that's kind of what Oliveira did in the first iteration. Stressing his multitasking to the point where even he starts to fray around the edges. Just starting to kill drones and force fights where Serral isn't able to pick out the key units with Blinding Cloud or Corrosive Bile and grinding him down. Because if Serral's allowed to concentrate all his forces on cleaning up one attack, he's going to do it. And we saw that there. The Vipers, the Baneling speed, eventually the Ultras. Oliveira did not have the answer by the time he needed it. And Serral goes up 2-1. Pretty solid exchange thus far, though. The Reaper comes in for the obligatory tap on the shoulder. Taps itself on the shoulder a bit in turn, so not the ideal usage. Queens come out to formally request that the Reaper please stop. Looking for the creep tumor, not gonna find it. Almost kills a Zergling. So, you know, emotional damage. Oh, the Queen? A little off. It happens, all right. You slow down with age. We all do. Natural taken, third CC for Oliveira yet again. No sort of silly two-base timings here. Creep being pushed out moves the Queen to engage the Reaper as the creep tumor comes out to try to make sure there's an opportunity there. Zergling speed is completed. And maybe this time, the full-on Banshees. Starts a Viking. He does land on the tech lab, keeping his options open. And starts Cloak. Overlord, as always, finds a way in. Swings it by the very left side of the map. Viking will pop out, but... bit awkward there. Banshee is on the way. But he didn't go for Cloak. He's already kind of created that mind game of, am I actually going for Cloak? Because on hard lead, he clearly didn't. That Banshee got taken out, never cloaked. Not that it's a huge difference, but just putting the threat there is clearly what he's trying to do. This time around, it's going to be Ling Bane. No Roach Warren. Instead, a lair on the way and some more gases. Which means we have a Ling Bane with a chance of Mutas. Though I think unlikely with only 2 gases overall. Zerglings roasted. Double NG Bay on the way. No Evo chambers for sale yet, though they should be along shortly. As he's already got 54 drones and counting. Branded bounce. Reaper always there to put the queens in their place, which is slightly off to the side of wherever they are right now. Evo chambers on the way. Baneling speed. Sorry, I was looking at the future. Baneling speed enters production. There you go. And then 1-1 shortly behind. Couple Zerglings sneak by. Gotta get the SCV on the Chew Toy Depot, which is serving its purpose at the moment. If a little more quickly than Oliveira may have wanted. Oh, Overlord, what a save. And turns it into an Overseer, why not? Ensures its survival for now. $69 drones per sale. A nice economy to base the MiG game off of. That's a lot of Hellions. But not so many as he's willing to risk. No scan? I assume so. Otherwise, I very likely would have seen it there. The double cloak Banshee? So already got so many drones, he sent them over to the 4th. Where is that Overseer? There's nothing here. Oh my god. The Banshees have free reign for the moment. 5 drones down, just flying past the score here, and mostly ignoring it. 9 kills. Real damage here. as the Overseer went across the map, or at least one of them. Heading for the main, loses one Banshee. Might be able to pick up a couple more drone kills, but definitely more damage than Serral expected to be taking here. And Oliveira gonna get a full scout as well. Not a huge deal at this stage because it's not particularly difficult to figure out what Serral's going to do, but definitely doesn't hurt. And the fact that he was able to keep the worker count close to even and keep tabs on where those units are for this long, already a win for Oliveira, if a slight one. How much energy on this Overseer? As Serral, one of the only, if not the only Zerg player I've seen use the Contaminate ability on a regular basis. Oh, the Zerglings looking, the angling is not perfect, but the Marines do find an angle to be able to gun down a whole lot of Zerglings. Gets a 19 for 2 Marines and 3 Hellions. Almost found that sweet spot there. Combat shield finished up 1-1. Armory not quite done yet, so Serral actually will take a slight upgrade advantage. Any infestation pit? Not yet. Momentarily, I'm sure, as there's no other tech, so Serral has only one way to go up the tech tree. It's not, you don't add a Hydra Den or a Spire at this point. You do that right after the lair finishes. Well, he crushes any units on the ground, forces the rest into the medevacs. The Banshee, a little too close, gets taken out by the Spore, and Oliveira. That's a lot of I lied. Apparently you do just add a Hydra Den. You know nothing, Winter. Well, with this many units on the field, Serral might be able to come up the ramp, or he might take critical damage to the siege tanks. 13 SCVs down at the attempted 4th, and he left a Zergling behind. The one time I say it. Alright. It looks like Serral does just want to add Hydras in. Going for the groovy spines here. That means Serral wants to win on lair tech, or at least get way more damage done, aka smash that 4th planetary. Even before Vipers, which is a bit of a risk, but at the same time, there's the infestation pit. Is a bit of a risk, but also keeps the Terran from ever getting to that kind of turtle ghost-based composition, or at least I assume that's the objective. Some burrowed Banes scattered throughout. Not usually a massive game changer, but occasionally. Rarely do you find enough Marines clumped up, is the main issue. Just the threat of them can be helpful, though. That's certainly a little bit off. Alright, infestation pit is done. Hive is on the way. A few Hydras mixed in here, but is it going to be a lurker game? The Burrowbane's not a bad scout either. He's gonna stim, and boom. Gets the Marines, undercuts all that. Grenade comes out, and wait for more. Wait, there's another one! Popping them left, right, and center. Oliveira, well, loses like, it looks bad, but he, 21 Marines down between those Bane mines. Not bad. We don't actually see the loss of the Banelings there, because a Baneling that attacks is not lost, it's succeeded, is how the unit's lost tab treats it. Always a little awkward. Alright. Banelings trying to roll in, but a huge amount of bile will keep them off it. Lurker Den on the way, Hive on the way, but Oliveira's managed to max out. So this is quite a dicey scenario for Serral at the moment. He is up against a 200 supply Terran with just lair tech, which is an immensely difficult proposition for most players, as the efficiency of that Terran army is nearly unmatched. You really do need the Vipers or something like lurkers, but here we go. Widow Mines, no shots. The tanks aren't sieged here, but apparently don't need to be. As, well, a whole lot of the Zerglings that were looking for a counter have to come back to defend. Oliveira still at 200 supply. Despite that entire fight, both players are remaxed out immediately. The economies are huge. They don't get much larger than this, as the main base even is still mining, as well as all the expansions. Siege tanks. Big Zergling counter, trying to cut off some of the reinforcements. Ghost potentially vulnerable, but the siege tanks will drive away many of the Zerglings. Are there lurkers on the field? Not yet. Widowmine's burrowing. No drilling claws, but that doesn't matter enough. Serral cut down again. Vipers, 1 on the field. That'll have to be enough. Banelings rolling in. Missile attacks level 1. Another set of Marines goes flinging into the skies. The Queens will join it. And Oliveira actually losing a lot of supply. The Zerglings cutting off back at home, but the drones quick and running away. Not quick enough and running away. 17 drones down. Serral remaxing. He's knocking at the gates here. Knocks down the supply depots. Finds his way into the third. Ruining the SCV line. 20 SCVs down, and the Zerglings are not going to be stopped. Not yet. And now Oliveira's attack is looking pretty thin. Just a few tanks and a bunch of ghosts at the back. And he will have to pick up and get out. Flies away, but Serral Zerglings are in the main. They're on top of the production. Oliveira did not take enough care back at home. And now the Zerglings are tearing him apart. It's kind of an unceremonious moment, but is he dead? Oliveira cannot. He's trying to stabilize, but Serral has completely gutted his economy and his production. And that's it. Wow. Feels like we were racing towards the finish line, and then Oliveira kind of face-planted down near the end. It was Serral who stuck out a leg and tripped him, but those Zerglings doing more damage than the main attack on either side. And Serral is able to undercut Oliveira and take it 3-1. Quite a decisive victory for the finisher. A bit disappointing because Oliveira, in each of the games, looked like he had a pretty great opportunity. Well, besides game one. Game one was kind of a walkover, but Serral just, the killer instinct is too good. It's so difficult to actually compete with him directly. And this time around, Oliveira falls short. Serral takes it 3-1. I hope you enjoyed. If you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. And if you check out the recommended autoplay over there, that is awesome. And YouTube is complimenting me on it and saying that's a big deal. So thank you for keeping that up. Otherwise, I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.